Recording live. Oh, there it is.
Hey, what is up, everybody? Yes, a different voice, same show. Sean is here. I'm hosting today. Felipe, our grand leader, is spending the weekend celebrating his first daughter's second birthday. So we want to give a shout out. Happy birthday, Penny. Austin,
Happy birthday.
There you go. Austin is out of town, and you might have just heard him right there. That is the one and the only Jacob Moses, co-host of the Stepback podcast, also brought to you from the Life Group Podcast Network. Jacob, how are you, dude? It's been a while since you've been on the show, and we're excited to have you back.
Absolutely. I'm excited to be back. It feels so good to be back in my voice. No, it feels good, though. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, and especially with him, today's show, we're going to recap the Baseball Life Home League with yours truly being the reigning champion. We are still in the year of Flannery in the Baseball Life Home League, but we're off to kind of a shaky start, but I'm not really too worried about it. But it's fitting that we have you on, Jacob, because you are currently tied for first in the standings. And for those that don't know, that this is a head-to-head categories league. It's been going for about 3 years now. I won last year. Felipe came in second. Jacob, do you remember where you finished? I want to say it was like towards the middle bottom.
Yeah, I was in the middle. I tried to pull an upset on Felipe in the first round of the playoffs, but Soto got extremely hot.
Yeah.
And there was nothing I could do about that, but it happens. But I'm back with a vengeance this year.
Yeah, and you really, you're sitting at 11-5 with also James, another one of our fellow Mets fans, tied for first place. And I was kind of shocked when I first pulled it up, and then I pulled up your roster, and here we are. I mean, this is one hell of a roster that he's put together. And for those that will be listening to this in the audio only podcast form, you can also catch us on YouTube, where all of the slideshows, screens, and spreadsheets are available for you to see as well. But Jacob, this is a hell of a roster. I mean, you got two catcher league. You got JT Realmuto filling out one of the spots. You got Pete Alonso, had a career, a great night again last night, 2 home runs. He's second, I believe, in the National League in home runs, first tied for the league, major league lead in RBIs. Tommy Edman, great year. Manny Machado, great year. Jazz Chisholm, who, I constantly rail against, but he's having, his first breakout year. Luis Arias probably going to win a batting championship. Acuna and Harper, both of which were keepers from last year, as well as Machado and Alonso were. So what are you kind of thinking about your team this year?
I knew going in it was going to be a strong team. It was just everyone staying healthy. That was the biggest thing. I knew it. If they can stay healthy, I knew I had a shot. The pitching is there. Look, Frankie Montas, Ian Anderson. I had that plan. See, I took a little page out of your book and started really doing my research on what players would actually give me the most points, head-to-head matchup. I was like, okay, I got to do this. And I really did my research on every one of them, and it actually paid off. It really did.
Yeah, and you have guys, Ian Anderson's taking a little bit of a step back, but
yeah.
Hey, I didn't even mean to say that,
No
but he has taken a step back, once again, referencing that great show that Jacob and Leon put on over there in Basketball Life. He's sitting at a high 4 ERA, but then everyone else is just a solid pitcher. Frankie Montas, Logan Webb, Zach Wheeler, Christian Javier. If I were you, I'd probably have a little bit more depth. That the one SP on the bench scares me a little bit, but but the offense, I mean, that is just a crazy offense, and they're definitely carrying you. But I just wanted to single out your roster here at the start while we go. And like we said, that this is a head-to-head categories league, but because we're on Fantrax, we can also see how things would look if this were a just regular Roto League. And let me see if I can find here we go, results. Oh no, this is going to be under season stats. So we're struggling here, but here we go. So if this was a Roto only league, I would be in third place. I'd be behind Felipe. I'll pat you on the back, Felipe. There you go. You're in second. James is just kind of being our authoritative winner. I'm a little ahead of you, Jacob, And then, the rest kind of falls into order. Harvey, Margola's actually having a better year this year. He always goes with the crazy strategies. I think he just kind of treats this as like a little experimental lab. And, but yeah, this year it's been kind of frustrating. I see that based on the season-wide stats, my roster's okay. My roster's pretty good, third most in roto points. And then I just go over here to the actual regular season standings, and I'm 8-8. And I had I think a 5-game losing streak at one point. And I was just like, and the final loss of that streak was a tied matchup in which I was the away team. So I lost the tiebreaker. And I was like, oh my, I can't win for losing here. But so let's go to James' team here. This is the first place team. Shout out to James Handabode. Let's see if we can give him a little shout out in the chat. Jacob, I just want to hear your thoughts on what you think about James's team.
It's another solid one. You have production of it. Paul Goldie is playing out of his mind. That's pretty much carrying a lot of it. Jeremy Pena, the kid is there, and he's not even he hasn't even reached his apex of where he really can go, which is scary. Connor Joe has been putting up stupid numbers. He's in Colorado, so it's not surprising. J-Rod, he's decent. He's another one, high ceiling kind of guy. But
he had the slow start, and then he's just kicked it on in the last month and a half or so. And I think it's really shocking that he's leading the league in stolen bases. I don't think a lot of people saw him being in stolen bases. 16 steals so far, huge for his team. But he also has Mookie Betts.
He's playing at an MVP level too.
And of course we saw him last night as well.
Playing out of his mind.
And there was a pretty interesting thing last night in the Mookie Betts at bat, since we're kind of talking about him, that Buck Showalter had David Peterson pitching. Betts had a bases clearing double. I don't think he got to third base. Yeah, a bases clearing double. And the next time up, David Peterson was already at like 90 something pitches. He threw one pitch to Mookie Betts, and it was a rocket foul ball. And Buck said timeout. And after one pitch, he went out there and he took Peterson out of the game. And I'm like, I kind of nudged my wife, and I was like, this doesn't happen. This is really, unless it's an injury. That's the only time we see it happen. But Mookie Betts having a great year. And of course, for James here, when you have Paul Goldschmidt, who's having, the year he is. And I mean, he basically has the two top NL MVP candidates on the same roster. A couple of underperforming guys, he's trying to hold on to Yelich. Escobar's kind of being a down year. Votto, injuries and struggles. But the pitching, what do we think? What do we think of the pitching here? He's got a lot of pitching depth, so he can really play those matchups.
Honestly, it's solid all the way through. Carrasco, we see him pitch, every 5 days. Nestor Cortez is pitching out of his mind. I hate to say it, Yankee fans, but that's the ace of your team right now. I know Gary Cole's, but Nestor Cortez, the way he's pitching, you got to give him respect. Max Fried, I've always liked. Keegan Thompson's another one that he high potential, and I like the way he goes after hitters. It's Daniel Bard. Honestly, I'm shocked at him.
I'm shocked he's got a 2.5 ERA so far.
Yeah, this is Daniel Bard from 2011 to 12.
Yeah, I mean he's the one who had to overcome all the yips, and he's come back to be a solid reliever even at age 36. He still throws hard. 27 strikeouts and 21 innings, a home run per 9 under 0.9, which in Coors Field is kind of amazing. And of course that Colorado bullpen's always, kind of toss up. But yeah, he's got a solid relief core, both in terms of saves and holds. He has Drew Smith, who has already 12 holds on the year. This isn't a saves plus holds. This is a saves and holds, because over here at the Baseball Life League, we're just a little crazy doing an 11 by 11 bi-weekly head-to-head matchup. What even is this league? It's our home league. It's our fun league. And, I can't rag on it because I won it last year. So, it's a very hard league to win. That's what I'll say. There's a lot of great minds in here. And of course, he's got Kevin Gossman, Kyle Gibson, Jordan Montgomery. And then, of course, the two older veterans that are struggling immensely, Charlie Morton and Marcus Stroman.
Who?
The one that's built the one that's built differently.
Gotcha. Oh, I remember him now.
So Jacob, I have a question for you. Between these two, veterans, Charlie Morton and Marcus Stroman, if you had to pick one to bounce back, both are currently have ERAs over 5.
Okay.
Which one are you picking, and where do you think they kind of end up at the end of the year?
If I had to pick one, I'm gonna go with Stroman.
Reasonable.
Yeah, because he goes usually at the end of the season, he picks it. Well, if he struggles in the beginning, he really picks it up at the end. That's usually been his MO. That's why he's always been that, 13-10 guy, 12-12 guy with the low ERA. Especially I'll say in the park he plays in. I think Stroman could do it. I'll definitely lean towards Stroman. Morton,
I think I always felt like he was kind of defying age like so well, especially for a guy who in his younger years was kind of just an average pitcher. Then it was in the last 5-6 years that he became all-star caliber. And out of nowhere, I was reading an article the other day where his curveball, that's the pitch he's always been known for since he remade his career, and he's just not getting the same results on it. And that has to be a tough thing, especially at such a advanced age. Morton's already 38. And now his curveball is getting hit like it's never been hit before.
He's getting results all right.
Yeah. I mean, they're batting .299 against it. In the last 4 years, they had never batted higher than the last few years, 127 in 2021, 228 2020. 151 in 2019, and 135 in 18, 114 in 17. And then this year they're batting 300 against the pitch.
Yeah.
What do you even do at that point? It's like one of those, it's roughly the same pitch in terms of, the spin rate, the whiff rate. I don't know. I feel like he maybe could right the ship here. I'm not sure how well Stroman ends out the season. I think it's going to be one of those situations. Stroman once again kind of pushes himself off of a team.
Yep.
I think this is immediately going to be like halfway through the year he wants to be traded, and it is a reasonable contract to trade because really at this point, it was only a 375 deal or 3 years, 75 million. So really Chicago could eat some of this year's money and a team gets them for two more years. But yeah, you pick Stroman. I would probably bet Stroman, but if Morton can just get that curveball to click, I mean, I don't see what's keeping him from being the pitcher he was the last, 5 years. And so here we go back to the standings. We've gotten both first place teams, you and James. So now we're going to go with Leon's team, Smoking Aces. Let's go ahead and get him in a tag. Okay, Facebook doesn't want to let me tag him in the chat, but we will go ahead and talk about his team. I will give you the floor. So solid little team, a couple of underperforming guys. But I believe his pitching. Yeah, the pitching is pretty good so far. But let's start it on the offensive end. Of course, he's going to have his Washington National guys being the Nats fan he is. Hey, everyone has a little bit of a homer inside of them.
Absolutely.
And it's better than having Homer from The Simpsons inside of you. So, but yeah, he's got, just looking at this, 1 national, 2 national. Okay. Cesar Hernandez. There you go. 3, 4, 5.
He lost his mind on Patrick Corbin. I'm sorry. I got him in our other league, and every time I see him, I get that little notification that he's pitching. I just put my head down and pray.
Well, you see, that was the thing. Patrick Corbin had a kind of a solid spring training, and I was like, I remember I tried to get him off of you, and I was like, I don't want to give him too much. But I was like, I'm glad I didn't. Patrick Corbin, 7+ ERA. But offensively, who do you really like in this lineup? Of course, he's got Cesar and Alfaro on the bench. Alfaro kind of having a nice little year as a part-time player.
I don't want to hear that.
I mean, I don't like Alfaro, but he's having like a solid little year.
I know it pisses me off because I had him last year. Like, oh, yeah, Alfaro,
and he couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat.
He couldn't. I mean, I'm thinking he's going to steal like 10 bases because, he can still run well for a catcher. I'm thinking he's going to get some slick stolen bases, bat 240 at least. Give me some pop. He didn't give me a damn thing. He kissed my ass.
Yeah. So well, last year in 2021, he did bat 240. He gave you 8 stolen bases. That's a lot for a catcher, but a sub 300 on base, which this league counts on base.
Yes.
And he struck out 99 times. And of course, this league, we also track walks and strikeouts. So yeah, struck out a lot. But this year, 262 on base, over 300. There you go. Already have a stolen base on the year. Knocked a couple of RBIs. But I think right now, who's carrying his team? I mean, Josh Bell having a great first half. Or really not even first half. It's just season so far. Kind of shocked he only has 5 home runs. JD Martinez also off to a solid start. I'm surprised that he's in such a good position right now with guys like Marcus Semien. And really, I mean, Byron Buxton has hit a lot of home runs. But, look at the average, 216 on base, 295 with already 44 strikeouts. Is this the Byron Buxton of 2016 again? I mean,
you guys got that contract. So
yeah, there you go. Bag secured. The bag secured. I'm going home.
He said, yep. All right.
And then he's got, Nick Castellanos, but really, I mean, there's not a whole lot of power in this lineup. Tyler O'Neill, that's another guy that was one of his keepers from last year and currently on the IL. But when he went, I mean, he was completely lost.
I don't know what the hell happened. He was solid, man.
It was a lot of Felipe and I talked about it. He had, a great year last year. And, he was always, he's built like a brick shit house. But batting last year, he batted 286. Before then, he had never batted higher than 260. The strikeouts never went away last year. And that was one thing that we talked about leading up to this year was like Tyler O'Neill was a guy that I did not want to draft because the results came last year, but the process really didn't seem like it changed all that much. And Tyler O'Neill now on the IL, but still only 26 years old. Maybe we'll see what he does with him. Could be maybe maybe Leon doesn't even keep Tyler O'Neill next year, but we'll go to the pitching. Who do you really like on this pitching staff? Shane Bieber was his lone key. Well, Shane Bieber and Max Scherzer were his keepers. Of course, Max Scherzer on the IL now, but it's a interesting starting rotation. He's got a good amount of depth. Yeah, he's got some good depth as well.
I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say I like Skubal. I like obviously Bieber. I'm not gonna pick the obvious choice. Bieber, okay, he's the reason he's the top of that rotation kind of guy. But I like Skubal. I really do. I think that kid has the goods. If he just, keeps consistent, I think he'll be really good.
Yeah, definitely. And he's a guy that with, kind of this pitching staff, like Shane Bieber is a guy that I was fading and I'm kind of, he's been good this year. Granted, he hasn't really faced all that many great lineups, especially in the last 4 or 5 starts. They've come against Minnesota, Detroit, and Baltimore, where he's really kind of racked up the innings and strikeouts. But when he faced Toronto, 7 earned runs. When he faced the Angels, that was 7 hits, 3 earned runs. Still a quality start, but Shane Bieber, I'm still jury's out. Nate Eovaldi's off to a solid little start. Patrick Sandoval, like you said, Tariq Skubal, and as well as like Sean Manaea and Syndergaard, these guys that are just going out there and they're not going to strike out the world. They're not going to win the Cy Young, but you could do way worse. You could be starting Patrick Corbin every week.
I want to cry.
Yeah, but of course, when Leon gets Max Scherzer back, this could be a pretty formidable team. Oh, yeah. Maybe make a couple of additions via subtraction and call it a day. Now let's go. And before we do the standings, let's just look at the top players in our format so far. If you had a guess, who's the number one pitcher and the number one hitter in the league so far?
Number one pitcher.
In this format, with the stats we have.
Oh crap. Hold on. Damn. Give me a second.
It's a West Coast team. I'll give you a hint. It's a West Coast team.
It was a West Coast team. Is it Logan Gilbert?
No, he's not that high. It's Joe Musgrove. I feel like who is having he's an early season Cy Young candidate. Luckily, the Mets miss him on this West Coast trip.
Yeah.
But I feel like he's having like the quietest great year ever. Everyone isn't really talking about him, and he's just going out there and shoving. I mean, look at the start history here. Recently, his most recent start against Milwaukee, he had, I think it was the perfect game or no hitter going. He went 8 innings, struck out 6. He's not really striking out too many guys. He's a little under a strikeout per inning, but really avoiding the walks. Hitters are batting under 200 against him. And then, of course, the number one hitter belongs to yours truly, and that's Jose. I was going to say Jose Ramirez, who is just on another planet right now. He has 53 RBIs and 15 strikeouts to 30 walks. He's walked twice as many times as he struck out. He has 53 RBIs, 14 home runs, 7 stolen bases. This is a guy that, oh my gosh, he's unbelievable. And I commend him, and especially him, who just signed that contract. And a lot of people gave him grief over it, like, oh, you could have gotten so much more money. And this is a guy, he got his money, and look at him. Nothing's changed. He's just going out there, and it's business as usual. Of this list of the top 12 players so far, all but one of them are pitchers. Which one of these pitchers surprises you the most? For those that aren't or will be only listening, the pitchers are Musgrove, Alcantara, McClanahan, Manoah, Cole, Fried, Gausman, Burns, Verlander, Wright, and Nestor Cortez Jr. Which of these would you not have expected at the beginning of the year?
Let's be real. Nestor Cortez. Who the hell saw that? There's no way.
Yeah, I think I would honestly have been more surprised with Kyle Wright. I'm very intrigued by what Kyle Wright has done. He always had the prospect pedigree, but every other year he'd been really just poor. I mean, and very, very poor. Like, throw the chips on the peanut butter sandwich poor. But, Nestor Cortez was like solid last year, but look at Kyle Wright. Let's look at his stats. The ERA in 2018, 4.50, 2019, 8.69.
Well, last
year he had an ERA over 9. Granted, it was only in 6 innings.
Yeah, he got hurt. I mean,
I thought he was just going to be one of those guys. Another one of the arms Atlanta brings up that just is kind of like whatever. And of course, guys like Fried and Anderson have kind of tempered those, stereotypes about the Atlanta pitchers. But even Anderson, that's why I think Atlanta's kind of struggling so far. Is their rotation is good. They're just so young, and they haven't really been there, done that. They've made it to the playoffs. A couple of them have, but it's like this is only their second 30 years in the league, and they're still trying to learn. And of course, let's just look at the overall hitters. And just the who's who. I don't think there's one name shown here that is surprising. Let's try and scroll down and find CJ Cron being a higher rated player right now than just ever so slightly than Yordan Alvarez and Juan Soto.
That's not surprising though.
He's a flat out hitter, and him and Coors. Hey, look at that. Brandon Nimmo and Mike Trout being right next to each other. There we go. Brandon Nimmo is there, 4th outfielder. So that makes me want to know who the guys are behind him that Nimmo is rated higher than so far. Guys like Anthony Rizzo, Ian Happ, Josh Bell, Yerrickson Profar. What the hell are you doing here?
Still in the league?
Profar's still, he's 29 years old. What is he doing here? Like the walks and strikeouts. Okay, so 27 walks,
Yeah,
38 strikeouts, 4 stolen
makes
bases.
sense.
Just a little bit of everything, I guess. Even though the average and on base aren't that high,
Mhm.
the walks and strikeouts are helping him.
Hey,
Arenado.
Arenado.
Jurickson Profar is a better player than Nolan Arenado. You guys heard it here first.
Melvin, where you at?
Of course we kid, but Arenado has come down a little bit, down from, his, in April, look at the OPS over 1100. And in May, that batting average dropped down below 200, 640 OPS. But so far, early on in June, the batting average back over 360 again. So who even knows? Maybe he's just going to be an on again, off again type hitter. So now we've looked at kind of some of the top players so far, some of the surprising ones. Connor Joe and Wander Franco being rated very similarly. And I don't think many people would have had that just a few months ago. We'll get back to the standings and look at a couple more teams. Felipe is up next. So the reigning second place, the reigning second place person and our other co-host, our main usual host, his team, he has all of the young talent. And he came into this year. He won second place last year. His bats fell silent in the finals. Soto and Vladdy just kind of fell off in the last week, which was perfect for me. I'll take it. But this is like an extremely talented lineup. I won't even front. I mean, it's Vladdy, Devers, Bobby Witt, Luis Robert, who I traded to him for Jared Kelenic last year. And it might be time for me to just take the L on that one. And Juan Soto. I mean, that's like he has the 3 best young hitters, in baseball. Vladdy, Devers, and Soto. And like having guys like Robert, and he hasn't given up on Gleyber Torres, and I guess all power to him for that. A solid catcher situation with Wilson Contreras and MJ Melendez. Nice little bench. He picked up Donaldson, who I dropped. Okay. But
like Garrett Cooper.
Garrett Cooper having a great year that nobody's really talking about because he only has the 3 home runs. But you have to think in that ballpark, it's a little power, suppressive, especially with a dead ball. He's a
great contact hitter.
He's just always been a good hitter. It's always been a health thing for him. And so far, he's already played in 48 of their games. So that's more than he did in 2020 and over halfway to what he played last year. Now we will go to his pitching, and the pitching for him is an interesting situation. He has some good pitchers, and he's also streaming some guys that are kind of, pitching a little bit better than anyone would have expected them, like Jose Quintana and Clay Holmes. I mean, because Clay Holmes right now, that .34 ERA is just silly, and it comes with like an 82% ground ball rate. It's wild, but solid pitching. He does have Joe Musgrove, so he is the number 1 pitcher. Not starting right now because he started on, I believe, Thursday. But Drew Rasmussen, Framber Valdez, Lucas Giolito, who is having a good year, but it kind of seems like he's not because it's not, the year he had when he was a Cy Young, which I always think is such an unfair thing for pitchers. They have a year where they're like one of the best in baseball, and everyone's like, "Oh yeah, that was awesome," and then they do the same thing, and it's like, "Oh, they're not as good because they didn't get better." It's like what? But of these pitchers, and of course he has Joe Ryan and Chris Sale on the IL. Which of these pitchers do you like? Or do you think that will get better, get worse? What's one name you want to talk about?
Let's go with. I'll give Kluber some credit.
Which one?
No, I said I'll leave Kluber alone because that's when I zoned in on when I saw that. I'm going to say Jose Quintana.
Oh, do you think Quintana gets traded?
Yeah, it's Pittsburgh. Let's be honest. Somebody with value, Pittsburgh. Oh, they're getting traded. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, you see, that was a funny thing with Quintana last year. He pitched in limited time with the Giants, and the ERA was like terrible. Actually, I think it was 2 teams. It was the Giants and maybe the Pirates as well. He had a 6 ERA, but in his 60-something innings, he posted a career high, K per nine and K percentage, which has never really been his game. He was always the pitch to contact guy. And of course, this year, the strikeouts are back down. So are the walks. But he's not giving up any home runs, which dead ball. And he was always a pitch to contact ground ball guy. And he's got a 2.3 ERA. Granted, Baseball Savant's expected ERA has him at about a 4.5. His FIP though, 3.17. I mean, that's not bad. He's just kind of, if you don't walk that many guys and you don't give up home runs, it's a pretty good key to success for Jose Quintana. I think Drew Rasmussen will be a guy that could be really big for Felipe. Coming off a quality start yesterday, he has strikeout stuff, but every now and then the strikeouts just don't come, and he gets a crazy amount of ground balls. So he's a guy that can kind of go both ways in terms of, hey, this lineup isn't going to strike out a bunch, but I can get weak contact from him. And then he goes up against the lineup that will strike out a bunch, and he uses his stuff that way. So that's Felipe's team, who is in fourth place at 9-7, tied with Leon. And our next guy, Mike Harvey, our resident Cardinals fan, he is also 9-7. Solid little lineup here. Is kind of probably struggling from down years from guys like Ozzie Albies. Kyle Schwarber is hitting for a lot of power, but the average on base not really there. Yeah, that not really there. Mike Yastrzemski is probably one of his better players to go along with Trey Turner and Nolan Arenado and CJ Cron. So this is actually, it might not have the big star power aside from Trey Turner and Nolan Arenado performing for him, but guys like Mike Yastrzemski, Manuel Margot's had a great offensive year that nobody's really paid attention to, as well as CJ Cron really helping him out. Meanwhile, former fantasy, stalwarts, Whit Merrifield, Nelson Cruz kind of remain on his bench. He doesn't really have a good place to play either of those guys. Of this offensive team, what's one guy you want to single out?
Let's go with my guy, Trey Turner, man. Like, that dude is a franchise corner piece in every franchise, fantasy franchise, whatever you want to call it. The dude, he just does everything on the field well. Yeah. I mean,
except last night when he went 0 for 4 or 3 strikeouts.
That's okay.
Did you not notice that yesterday Trey Turner's 26-game hit streak ended and Paul Goldschmidt's 25-game hit streak ended on the same day?
Huh.
How can you not be romantic about baseball? It's like baseball, I swear to God, there are the gods of baseball and they really like to mess with us.
Oh yeah, we're Mets fans, we know. We know. Like if the baseball guys didn't they've messed with us our whole lives. We'll just say that.
Yeah, for sure. And with the lineup that he has behind him, and I want to say this year he's only scored 25 runs. I think he's been batting mainly behind Mookie Betts. Yep. So this might be a year where Trey Turner, already has 42 RBIs. His career high in RBIs was 77, and that was last year, split between Washington and LA. So Trey Turner definitely could be one of the main RBI players, even if he doesn't get all the runs, which I think the runs will start to come more as Freddie Freeman kind of gets into more of a rhythm. Freddie's still hitting. He's just not hitting for power as of yet. But Trey Turner could definitely be a guy. Don't think he gets to the 100 runs this year with only 25 so far, but 100 plus RBIs and maybe 80 runs is definitely foreseeable. And he has the 10 stolen bases. I'd project him for about 30 rest of the year.
That's a 30.
Yeah, and of course he's got some young talent as well. Nolan Gorman, he has in his lineup as well.
I like Austin Hayes.
Yeah, Austin Hayes. Granted, I'm a little worried about the power with that giant, ugly ass wall in left field. What the hell were they thinking? Anyway, the pitching. So this is where Mike Harvey is kind of getting his bread buttered. Garrett Cole, Logan Gilbert,
George.
Yeah, he's got all the Seattle pitchers. Kirby, Wainwright. Does Wainwright? They say he's going to retire. They say he's going to retire with Yachty and Albert. But dude, if if I was Wayne Wright and I come off 2 straight seasons of, where is it here? Okay, so he didn't have a 2 ERA last year. He had a 3.05. But it's like, look at the last 3 years. Like, why would you retire? Like, you're doing better than you ever have.
Go out on top, man.
Yeah, I mean, that is true. That's Buster Posey showed us that. David Ortiz has showed us that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and then we go to his bench, the solid, just the guy starting for him this weekend. Taylor Rogers is a guy that I am extremely upset at for no reason, but I missed the ball on him. I guess it was the late trade to San Diego, but it was like, even when he was in Minnesota, I was kind of like, yeah, Minnesota's probably going to be good, but I don't think he's going to be the guy in the bullpen, because Rocco Baldelli's been using a committee. He has 17 saves, and I have 0 shares of him in any league. I had him all over the place last year. I had him on multiple teams, and then this year, no teams, and now he's leading the league in saves.
Well, let's talk about. We got to talk about Devin Smeltz, though. I mean, he changed his arm slot, and he just, man, I don't know. I just don't know what the hell. I've seen him pitch a few times from last year, and then this year, said change the arm slot, throwing 2 pitches, and he knows exactly where to place them, and he seems unhittable sometimes, man. Minnesota, and they always finding these lefties. I swear.
Yeah. So I did fib a little bit. He is 1 save behind Josh Hader. So yeah, whatever. Still, he's second in the league in saves, and it went right over my head. And even when he was traded to San Diego, I didn't like go off like, oh my god, he's gonna get all the saves now. I was like, whatever. He's gonna be the lefty in the bullpen, like what San Diego did with Drew Pomeranz when they traded for him and then extended him. But no, Taylor Rogers, huge fantasy success so far this year. And then he's got Marco Gonzalez, who, after a very bad start, I'm shocked to see that ERA back down to about 3.5. He had an ERA of 9 and 4 starts in April, and 6 starts during May, brought it down to 3.68. So Marco Gonzalez, the tried and true lefty up there in the Pacific Northwest, not going to strike out a lot of guys. The whip is a little bit high, but that ERA is kind of steadying for Mike Harvey's team here, as well as like when you pair him up with a guy like Yu Darvish, who does strike out a lot of guys. But even Yu Darvish this year, only 48 strikeouts in 60 innings. Did not realize that strikeouts are down for Darvish as well. 2 kind of aging veterans that don't strike guys out. But hey, he's got 4 wins. Gonzalez got 3 wins. They're making it work. Next team standings. We got my team. We'll be very brief on my team. You just tell me, here we go. Here's the lineup. I got both Toronto catchers. I figured whatever. Kirk batting .310. That's awesome. Danny Jansen already has 7 home runs and only 52 at bats.
Louis G.
Yeah, Louis G. I put in there. I had to put in there. I mean, I'm telling you, like every other matchup, my team was batting like 190. I don't know how it was, and I put him in there, and we've won like 2 in a row now. But yeah, Louis G. we got in there along with where is this? Jose Iglesias? Jose Iglesias batting, pretty high average. Brendan Donovan picked him up.
I hate you for that. I had him in my side. I had him. I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna pick. God,
I mean, he's just Tommy Edman 2.0. I mean, he comes up and he is the random white middle infielder that nobody's heard of that St. Louis calls up and saves the season. And he's now eligible at first base, second base, third base, shortstop, right field. And he's about to become eligible, I think, in left field for teams that don't just do outfield, because 6 games at first, 6 at second, 9 at third, 7 at short, 1 in left, 9 in right. Like, this is insane. And he was really just a second baseman in the minors. He played some outfield. It was second base, shortstop in like 10 games in the outfield. And he comes up and, here's every glove you're going to need. He's
okay.
Yeah. And then Kyle Tucker's been kind of the disappointing one for me, but he's still on like a 25, 30 pace with the 9 home runs, 9 stolen bases. Ohtani, of course, I flip back and forth. because this is a semi-weekly, so Monday through Thursday, Friday through Sunday. When he's pitching, I'll put him in. Sometimes I miss some of his good offensive games. The lineup, I refuse to drop Jared Kelenic. Because if I drop Jared Kelenic, Felipe wins. Because then immediately Felipe would go and pick him up and stash him on his bench. And he'd be like, look, I got Luis Robert for free. And then the pitching, my pitching has been, I don't know how my pitching has been. I mean, solid, like Alec Green, but yeah, I mean, but it's like even then he has 64 strikeouts. But yeah, it's a weird. It's not as good as the one I had last year. It's definitely not. You know, getting Robbie Ray on the very last pick of my draft last year was like a possible league-winning move. And I just had a lot of guys. Zach Eflin I had on last year's team. Alec Manoah is definitely the ace of my staff so far. Michael Kopech, not striking out the amount of guys I would expect. He's under a strikeout per inning. As is Manoah. Is he really? Are all these guys strikeouts really as far down as I thought? But unless you're Dylan Cease, then you have 81 strikeouts in 58 innings. But you also have 30 walks. I mean, he's had 2 starts. He had 1 yesterday. He walked 7 guys, only gave up 1 hit, 5 strikeouts, 7 walks. That's just and then he had a 4 walk. Like he's had multiple games where he has more walks than hits allowed. Yeah, back-to-back starts of doing that. But it's just such an unhittable guy that really if they don't swing, then they're good. I'm definitely relying on some young pitchers in this lineup here. Ronzi Contreras, Aaron Ashby, Edward Cabrera came up and was just doing ungodly things with the baseball in Colorado, throwing 96-mile-an-hour changeups. But yeah, it's a young team. Graham Ashcraft has made a nice little debut. I've punted holds. I have Iglesias and Jansen, but it's one of those, I don't know. Of the offense, I feel like it's a competing offense. Of course, we made the big trade for Bichette, but if there was one spot in this offense where I could improve, where do you think it is?
I would say, well, I would say catcher, but I mean, you pretty much got it locked down with both of their catchers. So either way, you should be fine with that one.
Yeah, and I did have Narvaez, but he's on the COVID IL right now.
Outfield. That's the number one thing. Yordan Alvarez, he's good, but your other 2 spots, Miles Straw, I thought he would be better than what he is this year.
He had a great first month, and I was so excited. And it's slowed down. Let's look. He had the 767 OPS in April, which isn't crazy by any means, but when you consider what the league average OPS was in April, it was like in the mid 600s. He was batting 290. He was walking a bunch. And he's still walking a bunch, but he's not hitting. In May, he had more walks than strikeouts, but he batted 178. And so far this month, only batting 222. So really hoping for more out of Miles Straw, or else I might have to bench him. But it's one of those. Who do you put in, like, out of my lineup? I guess I could put Quan in, but he doesn't. Go back to Stephen Quan again. Yeah, he doesn't play against lefties, so you're losing a good amount of ABs there. But yeah, I'm really just I've added and subtracted basically so many of these starters on the waiver wire. Blackburn was an addition. Contreras was an addition. Eflin was an addition. Ashcraft, Green was dropped. Yeah, I picked up Green. He was somebody else's keeper. So yeah, I'm just really trying to stream the starters, but hopefully we just get. I just want a winning streak. I don't think I've had like one winning streak all year. Here we go. We got about 15 minutes left. We'll try and get through these teams. This is the king of the life groups, as his name suggests, King Putti, Henry Maldonado. He's been waiting on Adley Rutschman for so long. He's been his minor league keeper, I think, since the very first year we switched to Fantrax. Not the start that he wants, but hey, young catcher. We'll give him some time to adjust. We're not going to overreact here. But the rest of the lineup leaves a little bit to be desired.
It's a lot of all or nothing hitters.
Yeah, I mean,
Looking at them,
Baez, Hoskins. Baez, at least Hoskins walks a good bit, but there's a lot of strikeouts in this lineup. His best hitters probably, Lindor right now with the 45 RBIs. Austin Riley batting 270, but hitting kind of a bit of a skid here. He's at the 31 RBIs, 14 home runs. Really not a whole lot of power in this lineup. Carlos Correa being on the IL hurts.
Yeah, definitely.
He's got Springer. I wonder if Springer was dealing with something. That's why he's got him on the bench. Yeah, he didn't appear in 2 games due to illness, non-COVID. Cedric Mullins, he kept from last year, but not having the same type of season he did in 2021. So, yeah, lots of things that could be going better. This is a high upside team, no doubt.
Oh, yeah.
And he's sitting, right at 500 with me. So I can't really say too much. The pitching, I'm surprised he has so many good pitchers, but they're having terrible years. Tyler Mahle has kind of turned it around a little bit, but ERA over 5. Justin Steele, ERA over 5. Zach Greinke, and now on the IL, ERA over 5. Trevor Rogers, who was like, I picked him in a lot of places this year, and ERA over 5. Blake Snell, ERA right at 5, 4.8.
What the hell happened?
I'm honestly kind of shocked that Henry is 8-8 right now. It could just be some of the randomness of having the guys have good starts at the same time. He's got a lot of injuries, Flaherty and Ryu on the IL, but even Ryu, ERA over 5 before he went on the IL. So Henry's kind of skating by on the pitching. The offense could really explode and carry him. If you had to pick one of these starters to rebound, who are you picking?
I would go with
got Mahle, Rogers, Snell.
I would say Snell.
I
can't see him going the whole season pitching like that. I just can't.
I mean, it's only been 3 starts, and the last 2 weren't even, terrible. The last 2 starts, he's gone 5 1/3, 3 earned runs, 7 strikeouts. Last start, 6 innings, 2 earned runs, 6 strikeouts. So they're gradually probably trying to build him back up. I did notice that the fastball velocity was pretty much the same as it was pre-injury. So yeah, I would probably pick Blake Snell as well. And offensively, I mean, he just needs these guys to play to their career levels. I mean, they don't have to do anything crazy. If this lineup does what they've done for their careers, they're great. I didn't want to overlook here because we didn't mention him. He has Andrew Vaughan having a great year and just kind of great. Tony La Russa seems to ignore that he's having a good year and bats him in the lower third. Luis Robert's batting 5th against righties, and they're like batting Lurie Garcia leadoff against righties. And I'm like, what the hell? Like Tony La Russa,
he's a weirdo.
Yeah, that's the word for it. Okay, now we're gonna get to Mario Margola. All of the rest of the teams from here on out, hate to let you know, but you guys are sub 500, and you should feel bad. But here we go with Mario's team. We got, let's see, not very much in terms of the offense aside from Aaron Judge having a career year and Mike Trout, but everything else kind of right here. There you go. You there, Jacob? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So, this is Mario's team. He's got 2 of the best hitters in baseball, even though one of them's hit a little bit of a skid, Mike Trout. He's got Judge and Trout, and not much aside from that. Tim Anderson, he did have, but Tim Anderson's now hurt. Mario probably needs to update his lineups that he probably hasn't done in a minute. He also had Seiya Suzuki, who I didn't even know was on the IL. Hit in the batting cages. Oof.
Huh.
That's unfortunate. That's a Mets injury right there. That is a Mets injury. That's a Mets injury. Oh, but the pitching staff, that's if Mario could just get his hitters in shape, his pitchers would
pretty
be,
nasty.
oh my goodness. Zach Gallen having, an outstanding year.
Mm-hmm.
Mackenzie Gore
Lighting the
putting
world
up
on fire.
putting up historic numbers after being in prospect purgatory for forever. McClanahan, Arias. Arias isn't even having like his best year.
No.
Like Arias is his fourth best pitcher, and that's incredible to think about. He's got John Gray. Jesus Luzardo was pitching very solid before he went on the shelf. And then Aaron Nola, Clayton Kershaw was pitching well. Great pitching here. Dinelson Lamet's in the minors, Mario. Come on now. And he has Spencer Strider, who has recently been promoted to the rotation. His offense, I feel like a lot of guys he had Mondesi that in him being hurt, Bryant's hurt. If you were Mario, would you trade one of these like young guys, like maybe your Urias or Gallen, for some offensive help? And if so, like what position would you target with his lineup the way it is?
Oh,
I feel like he's solid in the outfield.
Yeah, he's solid in the outfield. He's good with that. I would try to move Gallen, if anybody, even though I like Gallen, but
yeah,
he got go back up, right? Yeah, definitely Gallen, and I would try to.
I think he needs third base. Third base seems really weak. Yeah.
Catcher too.
I mean, at catcher, like that no matter what, catcher's going to suck. But
it's hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do agree with you on that one. It could be third base or something like that.
Yeah, somewhere in the infield. Sheldon.
Jonathan Villar, get him. Come on now.
Yeah, and he's on the IL as well. Sheldon Noisy is your starting third baseman. Probably ain't gonna cut it. He does, like I said, he does have Chris Bryant on the roster, but multiple trips to the IL so far this year due to that bulky back. He's gonna need to find a replacement sooner rather than later. And now we're gonna get to comeback seasoning. You're welcome because he had been named comeback season. And this is our resident chef, Matthew Whelan. And I'm like, you can't be called comeback season. You got to be comeback seasoning since you cook. And of course, he's got a nice, solid little offense. It's not anything flashy. And he's got a couple of guys on IL that he could stand to get out of the lineup. But William Contreras off to a solid start. He probably has the two best offensive catchers in baseball right now between Contreras and Stevenson. I really wanted Stevenson back this year in the draft after having him last year. And I didn't get him, just like I didn't get Will Smith last year after I had him the year before too. I mean, it's like these people listen to the show or something. Like, come on now. But
hey, you give out the tips.
Yeah, Freddie Freeman, Tyro Estrada just being a little slappy hitter, DJ LeMahieu doing his thing, Jorge Polanco, Justin Turner, both of those latter two having down seasons so far, but we know what they can do in terms of the home runs and the RBIs. Andrew Benintendi having a career year, definitely helping him so far. It's an interesting little offense with some younger guys, older guys. It's a nice blend of spices in the lineup. God, I'm going to hell for these puns. But what are you thinking about Taylor Ward? He just went on the IL today with a hamstring strain. Former top prospect. How much are you buying into this season? I mean, he's got an OPS over 1,000. Great. It's only 38 games played. I feel like we got to preference that, 38 games.
Hey, man, it's nice to see it. Being a top prospect, actually figuring it out, because some guys never get it. I mean, same thing. You can go back to a guy like Jared Kalenic. Will he ever get it? Will this be his trajectory? Will he just try to get it together, take a little while, go back down? Maybe he comes back and get it. But Taylor Ward, I like what he's doing. You never know, man. Yeah. This all it takes is good amount of playing time and
consistent playing time, staying on the field. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And we'll go to his pitching. It's actually pretty solid pitching. Not the greatest in the depth department, but of course he's going to have his Angels, Reed Detmers, Taylor Ward. Matt is a Angels fan, so really he's only got a couple of Max Stassi, so he's got a few of his hometowners. But Walker Bueller, not really the Walker Bueller that we've seen the last few years, and that was easily, seeable last night when he gave up 5 earned runs on 2 home runs and only 2 1/3 innings. The Mets ran him out in 2 1/3 innings, and I was just shocked. He gave up 4 earned runs against the Pirates in the start before that. Walker Buehler is looking very hittable. The strikeouts are down 52 and 61. He's 27 years old. And this is the first time really in his career he struggled, aside from his cup of coffee in 2017. Yeah. I mean, every single season, look at that. Those are all successful major league seasons. I think this is a huge year for Walker Buehler just to see how he reacts. What are your thoughts on Walker Buehler in terms of what we expect from him going forward?
He'll be back. Every great pitcher, he'll have that hiccup or a few hiccups during the season, and we'll forget about it, in a few weeks. But yeah, I'm not too worried about him. I think he'll be back to his dominance, especially with the Mets. They're a pretty hot hitting team.
Yeah.
As we know. So it's not surprising. You get lit up by a few teams. But then you go on a run of facing, maybe Phillies teams that's struggling or the Braves that's struggling. He'll bounce it right back. I'm not worried about him at all.
Then he's got a breakout starting pitcher, Eric Lauer, a lefty for Milwaukee, Tristan McKenzie, reigning Cy Young Award winner, Robbie Ray, who has an ERA pushing 5 right now. There's a reason I didn't keep him, guys. There is a reason I did not keep him. I didn't say what it was. I just didn't keep him. But yeah, Robbie Ray, last year he had like the high, like 90-something% left on base rate, career low BABIP, a lot of things that just pointed to like, yeah, Robbie Ray can strike out a lot of guys. He struck out 74 and 65 innings. It's kind of right around, probably a little low for him anyway. But the solid bullpen here, Barlow, Bednar, Gallegos, and Gregory Soto. Do you think the Pirates are going to trade David Bednar this year? I think he's one of those guys they don't have to trade because he's under control for another 4 years.
Oh, yeah, no, he's not going anywhere. They'll wait until he has about a year or 2 left before they actually, and if he keeps it up, they'll move him. But yeah, I like David Bednar. I love Scott Barlow. So.
Yeah, David Bednar. I've been on his train since he was still in San Diego in their minor leagues. I remember I saw some tweet like in spring training. They're talking about he's hitting like 97 and he's throwing a splitter that is making the major league hitters. This was like in a side session before organized games. And I was like, ooh, let me star him. And I have him in the 30 team league. But even before that, it was in 2019. He played for San Diego and he struggled. And I actually had him up and down where I picked him and then I dropped him. Then I picked him and then I dropped him. And luckily he's back on the team. But yeah, Reed Detmers has the no-hitter on his young career, but ERA right around 4. That entire Angels staff kind of struggling right now. Ranger Suarez. Yeah. Even when the Angels pitching staff does good things, they're still bad.
Never fails.
Yeah. Ranger Suarez was, the guy, he was so great down the stretch last year when they finally put him in the rotation. ERA over 4.7. I liked Suarez. I thought he was going to be pretty good. I didn't think he was going to be this bad, but I thought he wasn't going to be a 1 ERA guy. Like that's that doesn't happen. The book gets out on you sooner or later. And I tried telling Phillies fans that, but no, they don't want to hear it. He's going to be a 2.5 ERA pitcher. Like, dude, he has like 7 starts in his career. Like, give me a break.
He profiles better as a reliever, if anything.
You see, I still think he can start, but it's just a weird. I don't know really how to describe it. He's definitely a pitch to contact guy, and he's given up a lot of hits this year. And I don't know. 1.5 whip and 4.7 ERA is not going to get it done in the rotation. So maybe he does need to go back to the bullpen, at least to figure it out. But granted, who's going to replace him in that Phillies rotation? So, yeah. Also, Wheelan is due for some reinforcements. Shane Baz and Jacob deGrom coming off the IL hopefully soon. Shane Baz is supposed to be starting at AAA today. I think. He's scheduled for a start. And Jacob deGrom, of course, just had his first bullpen session. So this pitching rotation for Wheelan could definitely get even better. And here we go. Get back to Andrew. Andrew is coming up here. Andrew is at 6-10 and in 10th place. He's got a lot of the big names that are really just stinking it up, not doing all that well. Wow, Anthony Rizzo is down to 215 on the year.
Ugh.
That makes me feel like an absolute genius because Rizzo was like the major player in that trade where I sent him Rizzo, Torkelson, Seager, and Trinan, and I got back Bo Bichette, Kopech, and Kwan. So, yeah, but Rizzo was like on fire at the time when I traded him. Yeah, like I still traded Corey Seager. I get that, but Rizzo was on fire. But Rizzo down to 215 on the year. Sheesh. How bad was he in May? 167 average, a 580 OPS. Yep, that'll but yeah, Trevor Story, aside from that little streak he had, down year again. Alex Bregman, down year. Corey Seager, down year. Matt Olson, down year. Ketel Marte, down. Andrew, your team just needs to be called the down years. Because this is, oh God, that hurts to see because that's like any other year that is like a championship winning core of those guys, and they are just not getting it done this year. Torkelson still kind of battling through. Oh, look, Cody Bellinger, another star that's just down year again. 3 years in a row.
Happened? Like, I want to know what the hell happened to him.
I mean, it's just one of those. It just kind of on a switch. I mean, that's 3. I mean, those first 3 years were just
stupid.
Oh my God. But his pitching. So he's got Louise Castillo back. Would you want to see the Mets trade for Louise Castillo? Because I think he's definitely gone. I think him and Maley are both gone at sometime this year.
Honestly, I would pull the trigger on that deal. You gotta. I love our pitching, but that might bite us in the ass because you don't know what you're gonna.
You can never have enough pitching.
There you go.
There you go.
Number one thing, Scherzer. We got to worry about Jake. I mean, Bassett, he'll get us the innings, but the way he's been pitching somewhat, it kind of scares the shit out of me. And I think Castillo put Castillo at City Field, and that would be nice.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Andrew's team here, though, the pitching, while his offense, he has a lot of big names without the big numbers. On the pitching side, the pitching is, as I guess the kids would say, putting in work. Luis Castillo in his 5 starts looking solid, like he hasn't missed a day. Luis Garcia from Houston, solid just all around. Another one of those guys that they created in a lab. You can't prove me otherwise. Merrill Kelly having a little bit of a career year. Kind of struggled in the middle, but he was off to that great start. He's had a couple of solid starts recently, the ERA going back up, though. But this is where Andrew is really winning. He has Pablo Lopez, Sandy Alcantara, Tony Gonsolin, Carlos Rodon. That's just 4 great starters, not even counting, the Luis Garcia and Luis Castillo. He's got Michael King, who's been a very solid reliever for New York. Diaz for his saves. Stalmont's kind of gone both ways in terms of saves and holds. And then Jeffrey Springs, many people don't know about him. He was in the Tampa bullpen, but he's actually been starting. So that's just another starter. And look at this guy's numbers as a starter. It's just kind of silly that they're like, oh, we had this guy in our bullpen, but hey, we'll see how he does as a starter. And it's just like, they're all good starts. His ERA has gone down nearly half a run after going to the rotation. So Jeffrey Springs, unknown starter that you might not have heard about. And he has Blake Trinan hopefully coming back from the IL from the deal we made with him. If you were Andrew, though, and you were possibly trying to trade one of these big name stars for maybe someone who doesn't have as much of a pedigree or track record, which one of these guys would you be looking to trade? Between like Olsen, Story, Bregman, Seager, Rizzo, Marte. Start
I
like
would,
Ketel Marte, that is.
honestly, I would try to move Story.
And
Story.
I was kind of shocked that he didn't trade him kind of right after that hot
He got
streak.
hot. Yep.
Yeah, like I would have been trying to get rid of him everywhere if I was Andrew. Maybe he still will, but yeah, it's kind of crazy just to see that core of a lineup right there, and that he's in third to last place. But great pitching, and as long as you have great pitching, any of those hitters or a couple of them can get hot, and he could be right back in it. And tied with him in second to last place is good old friend of the show, former champ. No, did he? I'm trying to think if he won the first year. Maybe he came in second.
Yeah, because Aaron took the first two.
Yeah. Yes, that's what it was. Jet had one of the worst drafts I think I'd ever seen, and he ended up in second place. That's what I'm thinking of. Like, I mean, it was a terrible draft, and I'm just looking at it like
terrible.
And yeah, terrible. And he ended up in second place, and I was like, well, I feel like an idiot now. But yes, solid little lineup. Not the best, not the worst. Yandy Diaz with his league leading 33 walks, 418 on base percentage. Eric Hosmer kind of having a renaissance year.
Mm-hmm.
But the guys that could really be pushing him forward, he needs to have Brandon Nimmo in his lineup. Excuse you, sir. Excuse you. But yeah, guys that could really be carrying this lineup, guys like Jose Altuve, Teoscar Hernandez, Jesse Winker, all kind of. I mean, Jesse Winker is a guy who, if you look at the peripheral, should be hitting way better than he is right now.
Yep.
But you know, he's got the talent, of course. That's why he's kind of screwed right here. His two best offensive players, Rendon and Tatis, on the IL. So can't stay healthy. And if you don't start Brandon Nimmo, then you deserve to lose. So the pitching staff, wow. You can almost tell that he is a Milwaukee Brewers fan. Corbin Burns and Adrian Hauser up there, as well as Martin Perez having another great year. I saw something where he was Texas's number one prospect back in 2011. Yep. And that he's just now having his best year, you know. And I'm facing him in another one of my leagues, and it comes down to Martin Perez's game and Kevin Gossman's game. And Kevin Gossman got off to a terrible start, so I'm trying to check that because I'm worried about it. But anyway, you got Chase Silseth, the young guy who's made a couple of starts for LA. The bullpen here, I guess he's just punting saves. He's got the guys for holds, you know. Jake McGee could start saving games again. Since Jake McGee's come off the IL, he's actually looked much more like last year's Jake McGee and not the one that had a 10 ERA. But Devin Williams, 12 holds. Hey, if you're gonna punt saves, then you better win holds, and he is kind of in that space here. Yeah, he's got a lot. I don't know. The starting staff aside from Corbin Burns is kind of. He's got Bassett. He's got Bumgarner, 3.3 ERA. Yeah, the pitching's okay. Could be better. With how his offense is right now, the pitching would have to pick it up. And I don't think any of these guys really have the extra gear. So, yeah, it might just be a reset for next year in terms of Jet. And now we will go. We are right at the top of the hour. I promised Jacob I would not hold him too long, so this will be our last one. And our good friend north of the border, former champion, two-time champion, Erin Zook. What has happened to her team? When I traded for Bo Bichette, my first reaction was, okay, I'm not even a big Bo Bichette guy. I'm going to try and, trade them to Aaron and get a bunch of pieces. And then I looked at her roster and I was like, I don't even like the roster. And, but here we are. So what are we thinking here, Jacob? Well, what's going wrong with their lineup?
Salvador Perez took that step back, no pun intended. Yep. Him and Jake Cronenworth, they really, I don't know what the hell happened. Even Santander, this is pretty much where he is. But those two, then Brian Reynolds, dude, 280, 290 hitter, and look what he's hitting.
Yeah, I want to say in the last. Okay, so far in 3 games in June, he's picking it up a little bit, and he picked it up a little bit from April, May. So yeah, slow start for Reynolds.
But it's not pitching because her hitting isn't that bad. Besides those two,
I mean, Ty France is like really the one carrying the offense.
Oh man, yeah, he's been
Christian
crazy.
Vasquez, I guess, having a good year. JP Crawford, it's her big names are struggling, but the middle name average guys are carrying her right now. And on the bench, she did pick up Max Kepler. Damn her. I just dropped Kepler. I didn't know it was either Kepler or Kalenic, and I'm like, I really should drop Kalenic, and
I would have.
I can't do it. Can't do it. And she's got Eloy Jimenez on the IL, so it's a little bit of a hurt there. Now, in terms of the pitching, her pitching should be doing far better than it is. Mike Clevenger, was he on the IL again? Okay, he just got activated today.
Yeah,
so
he just came back.
She's okay. But yeah, so she's got Verlander, Woodruff, Clevenger, Barrios, Urquidy. And it's like a couple of these guys are having great years, but then Barrios, aside from his most recent start where, he had the 13 strikeouts, ERA over 5. Brandon Woodruff, before he went on the IL, 4.7 ERA. So yeah, the pitching I think was really going to be.
Did I just see who I thought? Wait, keep going down. Go down there. I'm sorry to stop you. Keep going. Rafael Montez. Good Lord, he's still pitching?
Yeah, he's been good, man.
What the hell is going on with the world? How the hell did I miss him?
But did he really have a 7 ERA last year? That doesn't sound right. But yeah, he's had a couple of good years here in the past, but between Texas, he was a part of the Graveman Abraham Toro trade from Seattle to Houston last year. Okay. Yeah, so and he's only he's 31. Rafael Montero being 31 makes me feel old.
It should.
But yeah, of course, she's got Josh Hader, Kendall Graveman, so she's really got the saves and the holds locked down. Kyle Wright, there you go. So that's been one of her best starters this year so far, Verlander and Wright. So she has like 2 of really the top 10 guys in pitching, and she could have more if Woodruff would just be better. But yeah, the offense could use some work. Maybe I'll trade her Bo Bichette. I wonder if she would give me Verlander and Woodruff for Bichette and a starter. I'm not sure I'd even do it, but maybe, just maybe. So of the starters down here, I want to say she really like drafted Cal Quantrill really high, and it made me like double take. Yeah, round 4 after we already had 6 keepers. So it's like the 10th round for Cal Quantrill. I thought that was interesting. What do you think? What do you think of Jose Barrios? Where do you think he's going to end up the year, kind of in terms of the ERA and the numbers? Let's pull out his starts.
I'll give him I'll give him a mid-4 ERA. Being in the AL East.
Yeah, and you see, that's always been my thing with Jose Barrios, is that everyone's expecting the 1 year where he's going to have a low 2 ERA, but it's been year after year, 3.8, 3.8, 3.7, 4, 3.6, 3.5. Like
that's what he is.
That's at that point, I think this is what he is. I mean, he could have the one outlier year, pull a Robbie Ray, but I've had this argument like 2 years in a row with people about Jose Barrios. If it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's Jose Barrios. It's not an ace. It's Jose Barrios. Jesus. And, but yeah, hopefully for her sake, Urquidy could turn it around. I feel like she has the pitching depth that she could maybe trade some of these guys. And really, she just needs to get Brian Reynolds and Salvador Perez going, because unless she trades one of the big guys like Verlander and gets herself like a bona fide outfielder, because that outfield's kind of, aside from Cole Calhoun having a great May, can definitely see why Aaron's in last right now. But hey, she is the former 2-time champion.
Mhm.
There's anyone that can turn it around, it would be a 2-time champion. So
Absolutely.
I think that wraps it up for the entire league. Hopefully we didn't hurt anyone's feelings too bad. Jacob, it was awesome having you on. Drop everything for your guys' show, when you're doing it, when it's going to end, when it's going to pick back up again. Give me the whole 9 yards.
We're hoping to get back into it soon. Like I said, Leon's actually, he's in the process of some things, so hopefully soon, before the playoffs and the finals actually, will probably be. Well, we got at least, the biggest thing, we got to get to at least 100 episodes, and then we'll see what happens after there.
Okay.
Up to that point, but yeah, we'll be back.
Okay, good.
We're not ended on that. That's all I got to say about that.
There you go. And what do you predict for your Knicks in the offseason? Who are they going to get?
Nobody.
No. Come on, they just hired that one free agent's dad. Like that has to mean he's coming, right?
Brunson, yeah. They're gonna go after him, but we'll see. I think they're gonna rely on the draft. I really can't see anybody.
Do they got a lot of picks this year?
They have the 11th, and then their second rounder, so it's not the major.
Okay, so no, they're not they're not the Thunder. They don't have like 17 first-round picks in the next 5 years.
Yeah, we're good. We'll be all right. I think Nick's tape will be back. Hopefully, we'll be back in the playoffs. But I'm hoping for Donovan Mitchell, but I'm not going to get my hopes up.
That would be fun. That'd be fun. Mitchell back in New York. That'd be fun.
Let him come back home and do his thing, but we'll see. But
okay,
we'll be back.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for joining me today, especially on such short notice. I will let you go. From the Total Bases podcast, this is Sean. That was Jacob. Everyone have a great day. Adios.